somebody else on my channel that'll be a regular customer of videos that we go over is this stupid motherfucker Tim Pool. You see, people like him and Tucker Carlson, I can't stand them because they try to put forth this I'm for the working class, I represent working people, I'm hardcore aesthetic, when they actually do nothing but protect the interests of the wealthy and pretty much just fascists and white supremacists. That's all him and like people like Tucker Carlson do. I hate fake working class populists. They're like the most dog shit worst people on the planet. And I also don't like the fact that Tim Pusto happens to be a skateboarder because it's like I skate too. You think I'm fucking around? Give me a second. Give me a second. Give me a second. I skate too. I skate too. I ride an older board. I watch a lot of early 90s videos. I love skateboarding to death. It's what got me into politics in general, is listening to punk rock. You see, I got my RKL hoodie. And I started skateboarding when I was 17 years old. It was probably like the only sport, quote unquote, that I was ever good at. And one thing that I noticed over the years is that in the sport of skateboarding or the activity, there's no such thing as a way to exclude people. Everybody get to skate. It doesn't matter if you're gay. It doesn't matter if you're straight, if you're trans, if you're a woman, if you're a man. Skateboarding in its adjacent cultures, like whether we're talking about gangster culture or especially punk culture, was always built on egalitarianism and understanding that poor people are discriminated against, colored people are discriminated against. Let's just all skate together and have fun and not care about what race people are. There's even active, and there's been many pro skaters over the years, like, Jim Thiebaud or, Tommy Guerrero and, many others and stuff like that have, wrote songs about racism or economic inequality, about fighting the police and stuff. We can talk about The Faction, their song Skate Harassment, and many other bands that's in adjacent culture and stuff like that, like MDC and more. Skateboarding has always been a culture against right-wing authoritarianism and against authoritarianism as a whole. Don't get me wrong, left-wing authoritarianism exists, but I just really don't like the way people like Tim Pool downplays. Now this video, I never watched it before, and I just really want to see what he has to say about the leader of the Oath Keepers getting this sedition charge, which he fucking deserved.
Conspiracy against the United States. This stems, of course, from the January 6th riot. Now, many people on the right are questioning the timing of this. It was not that long ago that the FBI said there was scant evidence of coordination to enter the Capitol and disrupt anything. But now, with these charges, the DOJ is saying this group did.
I really don't think so, man. Like, I really doubt that. I gotta call the FBI on that because it's so many people all over those right-wing alternative media, social media platforms like Parler and Gab and shit like that, talking about what they were gonna do, what they were gonna bring, how they were armed, how they were gonna probably even just like kill people and shit. So I doubt that there's not much known about coordination. The people that's been caught so far are probably just fucking, hang around idiots that were just in there. And finally, the Department of Justice and FBI are catching up with people who made coordinated assaults to kidnap and kill people.
Conspire to disrupt an official proceeding. Since the start of the January 6th committee hearings and the arrest that took place on that day, there have been no arrests or charges related to anything pertaining to an insurrection, sedition, or a conspiracy until now. Now, many people on the right said this is evidence that it was not an insurrection, that this was just a riot. And if you look at the photos, I'll tell you this.
This was a fucking insurrection, dude. Like, Tim Pool is kind of being cool about this. He's kind of both sides and he ain't pissing me off yet. But this was a fucking insurrection without a doubt. People went to the Capitol building. They didn't go to protest or or support Trump and stuff like that. They, like a lot of these people, especially like the Proud Boys, Three Percenters, and National Social Club, they were there to fight. Period. Point blank. They were in direct conflict. You think Black Lives Matter or so-called Antifa and stuff like that? I don't mean it in that way, but like Black Lives Matter and Antifa ran from the police. These fuckers directly engaged the police, pushed over the barriers, and pushed past them, and chased police officers around, and grabbed their weapons from them and beat them. They maced police officers. They did shit that left-wing protesters would get shot for.
They're bad. While it is true that many people were let in and they bumbled in and walked in and were acting rather tactlessly, I'll put it that way.
They didn't have a choice. Because there was so many people. You got 5 cops trying to keep 200 people back. Or even more than that, probably 1,000. Those people are going to eventually break through. A cop ain't going to, they're going to be like I don't get paid enough for this shit. We'll arrest them later. Let them in. Oops.
There were many people fighting with police, attacking cops, and trying to break their way in through the tunnel entrance of the Capitol building. It was bad. But perhaps it was just a riot. Now, I think it's fair to say that there always was an intention to charge people with something more than just trespassing. And there may be a good reason, well, not a good reason, but a good reason for Democrats in the establishment as to why they waited so long. In 2021, if they had arrested these people...
It's a difference between arresting a nobody wandering into the chamber of Congress and a leader of a far-right militia. The leader of the far-right militia, you can stick charges to them better than you can stick to some random person. Because if I say that, okay, this random person that wandered into the Capitol and that was fighting with the police, they were partaking in sedition, that wouldn't really stick. That'd be just, my word against theirs. But a leader of a coordinated right-wing militia, like the Proud Boys or the Three Percenters or Oath Keepers, it's way easier to get those charges to stick.
And charge them with insurrection, the news cycle would have ended. We'd have talked about it, we'd have got bored with it. And that's 2 years until the midterms. So, as they say, a year, 2 years, that's an eternity in electoral politics. The best thing for the establishment, for the bureaucratic and administrative state, is to make all...
Democrats are not the fucking establishment, man. Oh my fucking God. Like, dude. I mean, they are the establishment, don't get me wrong, but Republicans are as much a part of the establishment, if not more, than Democrats. You even got Democrats that's breaking the mold, like, let's say, like, Jamal Bowman or, Rashida Tlaib and AOC and people like that. The fucking Republicans are the establishment. The Republican Party is pro-police. The Republican Party is anti-workers' rights. The Republican Party is anti-abortion. The Republican Party does nothing to change the status quo. They don't. Only thing that they fucking do when they get in office is make shit worse. Being an asshole who makes life worse for working class Americans does not mean that you're not a part of the establishment. That's one thing that this bitch ass nigga do that I really don't like. Just because somebody is a Democrat and because Democrats are in power now means they're establishment. Don't get me wrong, you do have establishment Democrats like Joe Manchin and shit like that. But at the end of the day, the Republicans are part of the establishment too.
All of these arrests and have all of these charges come in an election year, which is now. I've warned all of you. 2022 is going to get crazy. Timcast IRL.
We got get a 49 state landslide.
Swatted. I know, I'm sorry for mentioning it so often, but isn't that serious? And we've been dealing with cyber...
Yeah, that was kind of fucked up. Somebody randomly called the police on this dude because I feel like at the end of the day, man, like, you don't want the police running up in your house. And, like, because, especially, like, you don't know. The police nowadays, they can't be trusted. But, I do understand, like, the ridiculous two-sidedness that he has about supporting police overreach and police brutality while being a victim of it and being angry about it. But then, on the other hand, seeing people like George Floyd just died off a fentanyl overdose and shit like that. Tim Pool is a terrible person, but you should not send the police after people because the police do make mistakes and they can kill somebody.
Attacks trying to take down our network, actually knocking our show off the air. There are death threats against prominent individuals in government. Things are getting insane. I don't know what's going to happen, but I can tell you censorship, smears, harassment, and criminal prosecution will be rampant this year. I'd say, in my opinion, but we're watching it right now. 13 days into 2020.
It's a fucking right-wing militia. They go to jail for fucking breakfast. From Timothy McVeigh all the way to these fucks. They go to jail for a living, man. And stop pretending like these people are innocent people. Like, these far-right militias have terrible political motivations and do terrible things to people. They're not just innocent people just going to jail. It's a reason why these motherfuckers get arrested and so forth.
22. There are several strategies we'll see take place. They're going to attempt to silence individuals who promote anti-establishment figures, and by any means necessary.
You're not anti-establishment, bro. Stop.
Up to and including criminal charges and false allegations. And they'll try to drain the resources of these individuals. We see this with people like Alex Jones. But I think it's going to get bad.
Alex Jones is a far-right conspiracy theorist. What the fuck are you talking about? This is the same nigga that was doing the Sandy Hook shit, saying that it was an act by actors to take people guns away? And you defending that fucker? And he got what the fuck was coming to him in court. Surprised he's not in jail over it. Because Alex Jones not only promoted this conspiracy theory, he created stochastic terrorism against the victims of the families of these victims and stuff like that. Where people were getting harassed, getting doxxed. People done had to move several times. And then when push came to shove, the case was presented against Alex. He did not bring the documents necessary to continue the court case. So he fucked himself over. He's not anti-establishment. I feel like at the end of the day, Alex Jones is just a fucking weasel who says, whatever is on his mind that day, any conspiracy theory he can get to get people's attention. And he's done said and did and entertained terrible ideas over the years. So eventually we was going to come to a point in time where he was going to have to face legal consequences. I'm surprised shit is not worse for him. I'm surprised he's not in jail.
They're going to try to disqualify members of Congress so they can't even run. And they're going to be ramping up.
That's because they will fucking deserve it, dude. Like, honestly, man. Like, a lot of these people, like, Madison Cawthorn and Marjorie Taylor Greene, they are not good people. They're not good people. Not only with their economic policies, but they support terrorism. That shit that happened on January 6th was an act of terrorism. I don't understand why people like you try to downplay it. So, say my vote and the millions of other black people who voted, their votes don't matter, but it's okay for them to support people that want to overthrow our votes and the person that we decided wanted to be president. That's kind of weird to me, man. Like, you can't just do that. Like, we voted Trump the fuck out, so now they create a gang of thousands of assholes to run up in the Capitol building to intimidate Congress into installing Trump as a puppet dictator or something? Fuck you.
Up criminal charges. Now, I'll be the first to say, if these guys did engage in some kind of conspiracy, then by all means, prosecute them. Lock them up. I mean it. But you're going to need some real evidence. I'm going to need some real evidence. And right now, it seems the only evidence is a handful of people who are being effectively tortured, as it was described, even by Democrats.
So now you give a fuck about how the criminal justice system treats its prisoners. But, African Americans and left-wing civil rights activists have been saying for years that our prison system is dog shit, especially compared to places like Finland or Switzerland and shit like that, where they get to go on a tennis court. Our prison system is very violent. It's dehumanizing. It's demeaning. But when some ignorant ass white people that wanted to overthrow the election go to jail. Is all eyes on that, but ignore all the other people that's been in there for like minor drug crimes. What about kids, bro? I done read stories about they done killed themselves after they had to go back home because they couldn't handle the trauma of being in jail. How about all the people that have gotten out of prison walking around with mental health problems and shit that you don't give a fuck about? But all of a sudden, these right-wing conspiracy theories, these fucking Nazis, go to fucking jail, and then it's all eyes on them. Oh no, our criminal justice system.
Them flipping and saying, oh yeah, we did actually plan that. Really? You see, many people who were arrested on January 6th were dealing with torturous conditions. It was so bad even Democrats came out to defend them. So I wonder, perhaps the reason we aren't seeing any charges until now was because it took this long to abuse the people in jail into giving false testimony.
What the fuck, bro? I knew I would find something stupid. What the fuck is he talking about? What the fuck is he talking about, man? What is he talking about? You talking about the one whole ass nigga that wouldn't I only eat organic food. You're starving me because I don't want to eat your regular fucking prison food. What the fuck are you talking about? Every other person in federal prison and in a lot of state prisons live in the exact same conditions. You think they're getting like waterboarded and tortured? A lot of these people not even going to be in jail for a fucking year. Let alone being there long enough to get tortured and shit like that. Nobody has even come forward to say they've been tortured or anything like that. These fucking far-right gangs like the Oath Keepers already made it clear that they were there. They were telling them their people on all these apps to go there. So don't give me this shit. You up here talking about they're being tortured. That's the most hyperbolic, dumbass shit I've heard all day. And I just went over a Candace Owens video as a test video. Get the fuck out of here, Tim.
I'm not here to push any conspiracy theories. These guys were there.
You literally just pushed a fucking conspiracy theory, man. Get the fuck out of here.
And if there's evidence to back up the claims made by the DOJ, then so be it. By all means, absolutely arrest them. But I think it's fair to point out that as contentious as things have become in this country, we're going to see a lot of dirty games. And now the Democrats have their official sedition and insurrection narrative. Before we get started, head over to timcast.com where you can read this story, but also become a member by clicking the sign up button to support our work, our fierce and independent.
What else you lying about today, man?
A federal grand jury in the District of Columbia returned an indictment yesterday, which was unsealed today, charging 11 defendants with seditious conspiracy and other charges for crimes related to the breach of the U.S. Capitol on January 6th, which disrupted a joint session of the U.S. Congress that was in the process of ascertaining and counting the electoral votes related to the presidential election, the Justice Department said in a press release about the arrests. They're going to mention the other individuals who were named. Rhodes and Vallejo did not have prior charges related to January 6th, but the others had been previously arrested. Quote, 8 other individuals affiliated with the Oath Keepers, all previously charged in the investigation, remain as defendants in 2 related cases. All defendants except Rhodes and Vallejo previously were charged in a superseding indictment. The superseding indictment has now effectively been split into 3 parts. The 11-defendant seditious conspiracy case, a 7-defendant original case, and a 3rd case against one of the previously charged defendants, the statement continued. The 19 total defendants have all been charged with corruptly obstructing an official proceeding. Only 11 are facing the seditious conspiracy charge. Quote, the seditious conspiracy indictment alleges that following the November 3rd, 2020 presidential election, Rhodes conspired with his co-defendants and others to oppose by force the execution of the laws governing the transfer of presidential power by January 20th, 2021, the DOJ said. Beginning in late December 2020, via encrypted and private communication applications, Rhodes and various co-conspirators coordinated and planned to travel to D.C. on or around January 6, 2021, the date of the certification of the Electoral College vote, the indictment alleges. Rhodes and several co-conspirators made plans to bring weapons to the area to support the operation. The co-conspirators then traveled across the country to the Washington, D.C. metropolitan area in early January 2021.
Oh, there you go.
The DOJ added, The defendants conspired through a variety of manners and means, including organizing into teams that were prepared and willing to use force and to transport firearms and ammunition into Washington, D.C., recruiting members and affiliates to participate in the conspiracy, organizing trainings to teach and learn paramilitary combat tactics, bringing and contributing paramilitary gear, weapons, and supplies, including knives, batons, camouflage combat uniforms, tactical vests with plates, helmets, eye protection, and radio equipment to the Capitol grounds. Breaching
and tell me these motherfuckers don't sound like terrorists to you.
And attempting to take control of the Capitol grounds and building on January 6, 2021, in an effort to prevent, hinder, and delay the certification of the Electoral College vote, using force against law enforcement officers while inside the Capitol on January 6, continuing to plot after January 6 to oppose by force the lawful transfer of presidential power, and using websites, social media, text messaging, and encrypted messaging applications to communicate with co-conspirators and others. The case is being prosecuted by the U.S. Attorney's Office for the District of Columbia and the Department of Justice National Security Division's Counterterrorism Section. The U.S. Attorney's Office in the Northern District of Texas and the District of Arizona have also provided assistance. Over 725 individuals have now been arrested for the events on January 6, spanning nearly every state. I want to point out, there was a tweet from someone who said that they were privy to a panel discussion with regular Americans. They were asked about the events of January 6, and they all basically downplayed it and said they did not care. They didn't. They were more concerned with the economy, with jobs, with getting this country back on track. But the Democrats have staked everything on January 6th. They need this.
No, they don't. Republicans still have dog shit economic policies. Remember, Republicans at this point in history are refusing to fucking govern. They won't negotiate. They won't sign. And they won't vote yes on anything. Everything. And then they got their two cohort dipshits, Kristen Sinema and Joe Manchin, helping them along. Republicans literally won't govern right now. All the stuff Biden wants to do to help you, the citizen, and don't get me wrong, I'm further left the Democrats, but I got to get credit where credit is due. The Republican is the worst party, socially and economically. The Republicans right now won't govern. It's not even like the Obama days. They literally won't vote yes on anything. Everything Biden tries to do, even when he wants to negotiate, they say no, they vote no. So don't give me this shit talking about something they need January 6th. They don't need January 6th. Only thing that they're doing, and it's not some leftist plot to destroy white people or some shit, it's called enforcing the law. Everybody that was at January 6th didn't have to be there. Everybody that's in jail didn't have to be there. See, this is one of them times where y'all tell African Americans and shit like that, or, Latino people, or even, women, to take personal responsibility for your actions. But when it's time for white men to take personal responsibility and go to jail for partaking in what? Seditious conspiracy to overthrow a democratically elected president for no fucking reason, because Biden really wasn't going to change a lot when it came to power dynamics in this country. Y'all have a shit fit and y'all melt the fuck down. So I just don't get this claim that, they need January 6th. Not really. Because even if they weren't to prosecute one person, Republicans would still be dog shit at government.
It's really, really good for them. Now, there's two ways this is being viewed. On the political establishment left, they're saying, see, this is exactly what we knew and what we expected. On the right, they're saying, this is exactly what they knew we knew they were going to do. The right does not view this as legitimate. The left thinks it's proving everything that they've been saying. But there is a problem here. The way the media has played this, the way the establishment has played this, to be completely honest. In August, Reuters reported FBI finds scant evidence of U.S. Capitol FBI finds scant evidence U.S. Capitol attack was coordinated. As you can see, it was mostly the right that reported this, according to Ground.News. And this is a problem. How did we go from the FBI saying scant evidence of coordination to now learning that the FBI had a grand jury convened
to now learning And it's kind of obvious that at least some of the groups of people that were there, even some people that were arrested, like the Proud Boys that were arrested, had some form of coordination in this event. Without that being obvious, they have to actually find out was anything coordinated before they can charge anybody with anything.
Alleging that there was a conspiracy taking place. Something doesn't make sense. Now, I am not here to say they're wrong. I am not here to push conspiracy theories. I'm here to just say...
That's your whole fucking channel, dog.
You know what? Bring on the evidence, bring on the criminal charges, and convict those who are guilty of the crimes. They are innocent until proven guilty, and I'm absolutely willing to sit back and say, let's see what you got. But certainly there are many people who are concerned about the treatment of those who are defendants in this case. Some would suggest that this mistreatment has resulted in all the evidence the DOJ needed to finally claim conspiracy. Because Stuart Rhodes had stated previously, and this is reported by the New York Times, that there was no plan to go inside. The people who went inside broke the rules and were not following their protocols, and well, too bad, Stuart. If you form a group and members of that group act, yeah, they're going to pin it on you. And that's what we've seen, and that's what we know.
Give it to Tim on.
You know, I had a conversation, I think it was Andrew Branca, The Law of Self-Defense. And he was mentioning the dangers of a neighborhood watch. You have Black Lives Matter riots.
Uh-oh.
But if you form a neighborhood watch to try and prevent riots, they'll claim...
We going back to that shit, bro. Oh my fucking God. Wasn't like 98% of Black Lives Matter protests peaceful? And the only time they got violent was when the police escalated the violence. They provoked people into attacking them and fighting back. From every story. And and let's not forget the fact, all those photos of people just getting fucked up, bro. People getting shot in the eye with tear gas pellets. The police, they aiming directly at people's face. The police beating people and slamming people of all ages. It didn't matter. Black, white, veterans, old people that can't even defend themselves. They pushed over a man and he bust his head open. I'm not even sure if anybody was charged for that. I gotta look it up. But don't give me that shit talking about Black Lives Matter protesting was just a bunch of fucking riots without even considering to think about the socioeconomic conditions that led to these protests in general. See, this is the classic white supremacist strategy nowadays, is that they call every form of civil disobedience, whether we're talking about workers striking, whether we're talking about civil rights protests of any kind, and they say that it's rioting. People just don't want to follow the law. When people are putting their lives and body on the line, trying to stand up to the police to get a little bit of, shed a little light on what they got to live through to their politicians, which, especially Republicans, but a lot of Democrats don't give a fuck about. But at the end of the day, that's what protesting is about. It's protesting in the face of adversity and demanding change. Sometimes you get it, sometimes you don't. Sometimes it turns to a riot, but most protests that happened in 2020 were not riots.
You're a group and you're conspiring. And that's where things get crazy, isn't it? Here's a story from Politico. January 6 defendants win unlikely Democrat champions as they face harsh detainment. Solitary confinement is a form of punishment that is cruel and psychologically damaging, said Elizabeth Warren. The treatment of the people...
Hey, let me tell you something, though. I heard Elizabeth Warren is not the most perfect politician, but unlike you, Tim, she's not a partisan hack, and neither am I. I think solitary confinement is terrible. Nobody should be cut off and sit in darkness with no light or a sound and no personal interaction, no socializing for any fucking reason. That is a form of torture.
People arrested on January 6th was so bad that in April of last year, even Elizabeth Warren was complaining about their treatment, with many saying they were being tortured. Now all of a sudden, what do we have? We have Oath Keepers coming out, refuting the statements of Oath Keeper leadership and saying that, in fact, they did plan this. I find that very interesting. It's interesting because they're Oath Keepers, supposedly upholding their oath, but they broke? Maybe it's true. maybe that's just the reality.
They never gave a fuck about. Let me tell you something about right wing militias and the right wing in general. These people don't give a fuck about freedom or no oath to the Constitution. Why these gangs essentially exist is a resistance to the advancement of civil rights of people that they don't like, and saying they don't. Oh, we don't like big government making me let a black person in my restaurant. That's essentially the ideology of most of these street gangs and shit, or these Republican politicians in general. Big government is just dog whistling for, hey, we can't discriminate against people out in the open anymore. So we're anti-government now, but somehow we still love America, which is a contradiction on itself. But that's the real ideology of these far-right groups. It's not to, to promote freedom or uphold what the Constitution says. It's about upholding their bigotry and the way of life in America changing to the point where they can't recognize it anymore. Where they can recognize the way of life that we have in America today, they just don't care for it because they can't be bigoted towards people. Or use their wealth to oppress people. One or the other.
The New York Times reported on this, and they bring up some very interesting information. They say in an interview with the New York Times this summer, Mr. Rhodes expressed frustration that several members of his group had gone off mission by entering the Capitol on January 6, quickly adding, "Whoops. There were zero instructions from me or leadership to do so. But at least 4 Oath Keepers who were at the Capitol that day and are cooperating with the government have sworn in court papers that the group intended to breach the building with the goal of obstructing the final certification of the Electoral College. Mr. Rhodes has also attracted the attention of House Select Committee investigating January 6, blah, blah, blah. We know where this all went. Results in all of their arrests. So 4 Oath Keepers cooperating with the government tell the government what they want to hear. I wonder when that happened, because in August, the FBI said they had no evidence. Well, since then, they have found that evidence. And maybe it's real, maybe it's legitimate. Maybe these Oath Keepers had a turn of conscience and said, you know what, bureaucratic state, you're right, we're so sorry, here's what really happened. You know what?
Maybe those Oath Keepers don't have balls and they bitched out under an interrogation light. You ever think of that?
I don't believe it. It's not because I believe in any grand conspiracy theories or anything. It's because you want me to believe
this whole look, sometime in your spare time, look up Tim Pool Civil War. Just do it.
that people who engaged in a seditious conspiracy then just went and spilled all the beans to the people they were engaging in the conspiracy against? Sorry,
You think they give a fuck? When you face, see, that's the thing about your little pampered ass, dude. You never, I gotta say that about myself too, because I only heard secondhand stories. When your ass is facing that time in prison, for a federal crime, for a seditious conspiracy, or even like simple shit, like for like a gun charge, and when you're some black kid in the hood, and they ask whose gun was it, you're a crack. You don't want to be in jail 15, 20 years, spending your time fighting litigation against the state. You will crack, and you will give people up for that time reduction. It happens, Tim.
I find that hard to believe. That these people were coordinating an effort to stop the certification of the election. They were going up against the U.S. government, and now they're like, we'll just tell you everything you want to hear. That doesn't sound like it makes sense. Let's be real. Many of these people who were storming their way in were not very smart. And maybe now they're realizing they were not very smart. It was a stupid thing to do. It was wrong to do. And it's only made everything worse for Trump, conservatives, and those who believe in freedom. It is now, January 6th is being used as a precursor.
No. We ain't going to do this shit on this channel. I don't give a fuck if it's every time they say this shit. I'm going to confront them on it. Because first of all, there is a such thing as right-wing authoritarianism, aka fascism, aka right-wing populism. These people don't give a fuck about freedom. They give a fuck about being able to be bigoted, ignorant, self-absorbed, and to use their wealth to oppress working class people. The right wing doesn't give a fuck about freedom. They don't give a fuck about economic freedom. They keep wages stagnant, make up stories about immigrants inflation to keep wages low. They union bust. They're anti-gay rights. They're anti-black civil rights. They're anti-police reform. The right wing in the United States of America, whether we're talking neoconservatives like Mitt Romney or we're talking further to the right people like Marjorie Taylor Greene, do not give a fuck about people's freedom. What they mean by freedom is freedom to get on Twitter and call somebody the N-word with the hard R without getting banned and shit like that. These people don't give a fuck about freedom. Freedom to them is not making a cake for a couple because they're gay. These people don't give a fuck about no damn freedom, man. They use freedom as a veneer to deflect from criticism. Oh, we just want to be free. Free to do what? To be a fucking bigot.
To file criminal complaints against the previous administration. They're doing it to Steve Bannon, Mark Meadows. They're going after everybody. They went after Alex Jones. What did he have to do?
Steve Bannon is a crook.
With this. Alex Jones was out there bullhorning with a legal permit set.
Tell Alex Jones to shut the fuck up on his channel promoting nonsense like this.
Do not go to the building. Do not go inside. And they're trying to go after him. There's one individual who's a Republican strategist, and they filed that they're demanding he cooperate with the committee, and he's like, not only did I not work for these people, I wasn't there, I had no involvement in planning. Why am I being subpoenaed?
Because fuck you, that's why.
Look, man, you're fighting an uphill battle. You do not have the high ground like Antifa. You don't have the media on your side.
Hey, fuck
this
you.
Is what
no,
they do.
No, the fuck they don't. No, the fuck they don't, bro. Every time Antifa engaged the far right in the past year or two, apologize, I just kicked my laptop stand. Every time Antifa engages the far right, the media tries to both sides it and say that Antifa are no better than the fascist or neo-Nazi gangs that they're fighting against. They're called thugs, they're called criminals, they're called people that's trying to tear down and burn America, when the only thing they're trying to do, let's say, you know, whether it's a black man, a Latino man, a white woman, a white guy who just loves freedom, and they march down the street to block the path of fascist ingrates who want to take freedom from other people. So stop this bullshit talking about Antifa has the high ground. Antifa never had the media on their side and still don't. Maybe the greater Black Lives Matter movement does, but Antifa doesn't. And yeah, I think it's unfair as a leftist that they don't. People fighting Nazis should always be thought of as the good guys. But thanks to people like you spreading conspiracy theories, people don't even know what fascism even means. And I feel like every American citizen, I'm not saying that it's anybody's job to choose your political opinions. Every American has responsibility to our World War II veterans to be anti-fascist. Period. Point blank.
To people. We have this story from Record Online. Capitol riot suspect from Newburgh tells judge his solitary confinement is inhumane.
From Nuremberg.
We have this story from the Arkansas Democrat. Lawyer says Gravette man charged in Capitol riot tortured in D.C. jail. And we can see how much worse it's getting. Mike Flynn likens Pelosi to Roman governor who executed Jesus. Modern day Pontius.
You know, if you really look at the history, the Romans who executed Jesus would have been on your side politically when you really think about it.
Pilate. Wow. Crazy. I mean, that's rhetoric, sure. But we're seeing this very serious escalation, man. And people tell me I'm wrong. People tell me that we're not heading towards some kind of...
That's my favorite thing to do. I'm going to at least tell you you're wrong at least once every 2 weeks.
...of civil war. Man, I don't know.
Why the fuck, bro? What is with this nigga in Civil War, bro? Like, you cannot go a day without saying Civil War. You sleep talk next to your girlfriend. Civil War. Like, come on, dude.
Maybe I am wrong. Maybe there's a lot that I can't see, and that is fair, and that is true. I am not omniscient. I'm just a dude reading the news, trying to fact check things. There's probably a lot of stuff...
The opposite of fact check.
I don't know about. Actually, no, I'll say there is a lot that I don't know.
Come on.
There are many things I don't know. But I'll tell you this. Newsweek. Marjorie Taylor Greene suggests Second Amendment rights should be used against Democrats. A little bold framing, I'll be honest, but not completely wrong. This is where we're at. Don't you understand what this rhetoric leads to? I don't understand the naysayers who watched the far left take over several blocks in Seattle for weeks.
That's not how it worked.
With rifles, marching around, denying science, as it were. And then they opened fire on an SUV, killed a teenager. The same thing happened in Minneapolis.
What the fuck is he talking about? I can guarantee you that didn't happen, or that's not the full story.
The George Floyd Autonomous Zone. They tried doing it in Portland. We are watching extremists seize territory in our own cities, and people are going, there's no civil war. It's amazing.
A couple of anarchists holding assault rifles and saying that they're secluding off a few blocks. It's not a civil war, you jackass. And it should also be known that the actions of anarchists and other, civil rights protesters, named or unnamed, should not be equivocated or put in the same political block as Democrats.
It's amazing that they would still call it
and
cold.
The thing you can say about the first Civil War, the people that were, because I'm not going to say the North was completely, they just weren't racist. I'm sure it was racist motherfuckers up north, of course. But the bigoted people trying to take away people's rights are the ones that started the first Civil War. And if it was to ever be a second Civil War, me saying Civil War, why the fuck am I saying Civil War so much now? But if it was to be a person that started Civil War, it'd be you fuckers.
At a certain point, right-wing groups will be purged and arrested. They'll be up against the establishment left, which currently controls the reins of power.
Oh, that's because, man, that's y'all fault. It's because y'all could not sit the fuck down and stop doing terrorisms. Whether we talking about that Dylan Roof guy, whether we talking about the kid in El Paso, Texas, whether we talking about Charlottesville, you motherfuckers cannot stop doing, January 6th. You fuckers can't stop doing terrorism. That's why the government is cracking down on you. Now, let me get this straight, dude. You remember COINTELPRO? You remember the way that the police beat the shit out of people during the 2020 protests? The police and the government are not going around coddling leftists. The problem is, you fuckers can't stop dipping your toes in the fucking water. It keeps getting bitten, your feet keeps getting bitten off by the fucking shark. Stop doing terrorisms, the FBI will stop focusing on y'all. And I'm tired of this false equivocation between activists protesting or, standing up to fascism or, police brutality or whatever it is. And then on the other hand, you got people that want to take away people's rights. And you're saying, and they, like I said, they won't stop doing acts of terror. And you're trying to say, you're using conjecture to try to equivocate these things and say that, you're not going to be able to be a right-winger sooner or later. That's not what the fuck is happening. You fuckers can't stop doing terrorisms. We can talk about the Boogaloo shootings and, all type of shit that right-wing militias and fascists and white nationalists keep doing. And you wonder why the FBI is focusing on you. There was a sharp rise in white supremacist activity in 2016, especially not even following the election, but during Trump's campaign. There's been an uptick in hate crimes, which has yet to recede thanks to his inflammatory language against different people in this country. And then thanks to people like you, or Lauren Southern, or Candace Owens, and Tucker Carlson, feeding them what they really shouldn't be hearing. Feeding them lies about immigrants taking their job. Feeding them lies saying that black people are trying to take the place of white people.
Far left groups take over cities and riot for months, and people just say, it's normal. Nothing's happening. What's normal about far left extremists and communists?
What's normal about motherfuckers going in Walmart shooting up the place? What's normal about Elliot Rodger driving his car in Ella Vista and shooting people because he couldn't get a girlfriend? What's normal about you fuckers marching past, trying to, your anti-lockdown protest? I never get this shit. We stayed home for 2-3 months. You getting $800 a week. And you motherfuckers taking your guns up to the fucking Capitol buildings talking about you want to kill my fucking governor because she's trying to save our lives and keep us at home. Get the fuck out of here, man.
Seizing several city blocks of a city and a police station, a government building. If that happened in any
Later found out to be burned by Boogaloo Boys.
other country, they'd be like, wow, civil war is kicking off.
Get the fuck out
And
of
yet,
here, Tim.
what do we get from the mainstream press? Oh, they're talking about civil war now, but
Dude,
they're only
come
talking
on.
about January 6th. I don't care what you think about January 6th. It matters, and so do the Black Lives Matter riots.
I'm getting a Civil War counter.
You can say that January 6th was no big deal. You can say it was a riot. Fine, I don't care. Black Lives Matter were riots too, and I still think it's indicative of a civil war.
No, it's not.
What did Marjorie
Stop
Taylor
saying
Greene
Civil
actually
War.
say? Well, they don't give us the full quote, so I don't trust them. Marjorie Taylor Greene said she is not a violent person, and she hopes to never see a civil war in this country. That's
Part of the Republican Party's entire platform is on violence.
fair. They go on, this Newsweek article reports, Marjorie Taylor Greene offering advice to Georgia's current governor and state lawmakers, urging them to pass and sign legislation to combat Abrams' call for grabbing people's guns. She went on to say, ultimately the truth is, it's our Second Amendment rights, our right to bear arms that protects Americans and gives us the ability to defend ourselves from a tyrannical government. And I hate to use this language, but Democrats.
Tyrannical government. Yesterday, I was at Michael's, and this black woman was holding something that she had to return. And they told her to get in front of me and go to the register. I can't believe how they treat black people so much better than us. It only took her about 10 seconds to return the material for her art project, but they're treating the blacks better.
They're doing exactly what our founders talked about when they gave us the precious rights that we have. She did not say the precious rights of the Second Amendment. The media lies. She was talking about Second Amendment rights.
When I was at Burger King the other day, this black woman passed me my food really aggressively. And I just felt so distraught. I never had nobody pass me a burger so aggressively. Fucking whining, dude.
But in that context of the founders, she was talking about all of our rights. You could very well say, she says, use the First Amendment against Democrats, which we should. We should be peaceably assembling, and we should be talking and discussing and practicing our right to speech and the press and all of that stuff to stop
all 10 of y'all sitting in a quarter of an abandoned warehouse.
Tyranny. And in the event crimes are committed by the government, yes, we have a Second Amendment for just that. Now, I hope it never comes to that, and I don't think we're anywhere near that just yet. But I tell you, man, it's closer than people think. They don't want to admit it.
Come on,
they don't want to. They don't want to believe that we really could be at the boiling point. They don't want to believe it could happen here, but it is not only possible; it is happening here. People just don't want to believe it. Can I just point out that the January 6th committee is filing criminal complaints, criminal referrals against members of the previous administration? We were told when Donald Trump was campaigning in 2015, when he was like, Hillary Clinton, lock her up. They said, how dare Trump say that? That's crazy rhetoric. And I'm like, it's true. I mean, I think Hillary Clinton broke the law with the emails thing, so maybe she shouldn't be able to run for office. But it is crazy. And now here we are where they're actually doing it. You know, it may be crazy, but I think the alternative is worse. If you do not criminally charge those who break the law, then you have no system. Because people aren't going to believe the system works. The guilty parties get away with it. The problem there is that when the left believes a bunch of crackpot BS because the media lies, they then demand people get arrested and charged when they didn't do anything wrong.
Dude,
I am not saying the
Trump
Oath
started his first campaign saying that if he was going to lose, it was going to be rigged. He spent his entire presidency cozying up the far-right militia and white supremacist street gangs, giving them passes, saying things like very fine people on both sides, saying that, there's a problem with the left in this country, but there's no right-wingers doing anything, trying to blame people, the black people themselves, after they were killed or harassed by the police, downplaying hate crimes and the rising hate crimes in this country. to support white supremacists and other far-right gangs in this country. So don't give me this shit. Even when his own person, it was a woman that worked in the Department of Justice, tried to tell him, I watched this on a PBS Frontline documentary, tried to tell his bitch ass that there's a problem with right-wing militias and white supremacists in this country. He ignored it and told the White House media to put out statements going with his narrative. So fuck you for saying that.
I'm talking about members of Trump's administration, and I'm talking about people like Alex Jones, who they file subpoenas against. Well, Jones he pleaded the fifth. I think it's pleaded, right? Pled the fifth. So we'll see. We'll see how that plays out. But I just think everything's falling apart. There's something dramatic happening in this country. And there's this Twitter thread that I find fascinating from Elizabeth Steinberg. I'm not familiar with who she is. She's just someone with a few thousand followers, and she tweeted, if you told lifelong Democrats in 2019 that by 2022 they'd become single-issue voters for the other side, they would have said you're nuts. They also would have said you were nuts if you told them that after 2019 their opinions would be right-wing. Oh, yeah. And yet here we are.
What are those opinions? First of all, the Democrat Party, by speaking terms, is a centrist party. It's a lot of people that vote on single issues. Let's say this, a lot of black people don't give a fuck about gay rights, but they vote Democrat because Republicans are racist. That phenomenon is not new.
Did you question blue state COVID policy? Poof, you're now a Republican. Wanted your kids in school? Welcome to the other side. Said Florida wasn't doing so bad and maybe we could lighten up a bit? Start putting on your DeSantis 2024 yard sign. They called you an unhinged granny killer faster than you could say, let it rip. But even after they cast you aside and told you to grab your guns and flee the coast with your fellow Rush Limbaugh-loving comrades, you weren't ready to privatize healthcare ahead of the ballots. Even after they dragged your good name through the mud and gaslit you till you couldn't tell the difference between science and reading tea leaves, you weren't ready to break out the MAGA cap. They'd broken...
I see where this is going. Hey, let me tell you something. Anti-lockdown protesters, anti-mask people, and anti-vaccination people are fucking morons. Period. Point blank. We got a pandemic on our hands. One of the worst the world has seen in a few hundred years. And I feel like it's every American's responsibility to help protect the next. And the only reason why people think a lot of this shit is because right-wing conspiracy theorists and right-wing hack-ass nuts like Tim and many others promote these conspiracy theories talking about, masks don't work. Why didn't they say it worked at first? Oh, we are staying home. I'm bored. I want to get a haircut. Oh, the vaccine has a microchip. And, just fucking lies and bullshit that keep people from doing what they need to do to feel safe. They play on people's skepticism to make money. And when these lies get into people's head, because Tim over here or any of these other fuckers like Candace Owens, they got their money already. But the things that they teach people to believe have real world consequences. That's why this pandemic keeps getting prolonged. It's not because the vaccine isn't effective. It's not because people aren't wearing masks. It's not because we need to burn off some people in the population. It's because people won't listen because right-wing conspiracy theorists like Tim Pool and Jimmy Dore play on people's skepticism and fear and sell them lies. While these people have their money, the pandemic rages on.
Your bleeding liberal heart, but they hadn't broken your woke spirit. Now I'll pause there and say, I'm not going to go around wearing a MAGA hat. I'm not the biggest fan of Trump, but I absolutely oppose...
fuck you. Nah, dude. You defend Trump every turn that you get, and then when people criticize Trump and they back you into a corner, you back up and say, they're all bad. Get the fuck out of here. You're a Trump supporter. I dare even take it up because Tim Pool's denial of the danger of right-wing militias and right-wing conspiracy theorists, I dare say Tim Pool is a fascist. Like, he's barking up that fucking alley really fucking quick.
Biden, his DOJ, and what they're doing. Merrick Garland is insane. They said you'd changed, but you knew you were the same person with the same values. The world might be upside down, but you still knew your place. No matter how right-wing it was to say that kids were not filthy vectors of disease. You tried reasoning. You told them the kids weren't... You told...
Okay, man, this thread looks pretty fucking stupid. I might just end this right here and might not watch the rest of this video because I feel like at the end of the day, the only thing this is going to be is a bunch of vaccine misinformation and anti-lockdown conspiracy theorism, and that's pretty much everything I said a few 1 or 2 minutes ago sums up my feeling on dumb shit like this. So we'll go to a good side. I like this long video. There's a lot of dumb shit to respond to, man. I love this dude. We should skate sometime, Tim.
For what he's done internationally with his son. These are criminal elements. Corrupt politicians. It is not a conspiracy. Corrupt politicians exist. Joe Biden is corrupt.
Like Trump. Oh, come on, man. It was only a matter of time. Looks like I said, I'm a fucking socialist. I don't feel like the Democrat Party is perfect. But when it comes to corruption, insider trading, and, not taking care of natural disasters at the expense of their constituency, it's always Republicans that are corrupt.
Don't ask me. Don't take my word for it. Politico wrote the story Biden Inc., talking about how his family's fortunes have tracked perfectly along his political career. He is a corrupt...
Somebody being rich is not necessarily indicative of their political predilections. Stop saying this shit.
Duplicitous individual. He shared a bank account with his son.
So?
His son was cutting in 10% for the big guy.
Come on, man.
That's the dirty game they play. And that's why Joe Biden had to run and had to win. Because Trump was going to uncover the criminal activities of him and former administration officials.
You full of shit. You full of complete shit. This is just a right-wing conspiracy theory. All this Hunter Biden shit. Talking about some shit on a laptop. And I think at the end of the day, the trade dealings or whatever that happened with Ukraine was between his son and Ukraine. And it had nothing to do with Joe Biden himself. See, I believe Joe Biden did run. Not necessarily to save America, but to maintain the status quo. If Trump stayed president, I don't really think our country would be looking too good right now. We would probably be under a right-wing dictatorship.
We see the evidence plain and clear.
And we're downplaying over the years like I mentioned a lot through this video, all the damage that Trump caused to our country. Whether we can talk about, the biggest one is the COVID pandemic and downplaying that. We can talk about the downplaying of right-wing militias and white supremacist street gangs. We can talk about, conspiracy theories saying that he won the election automatically. His approval and refusal to take federal action against right-wing militias. I got to say that again because these people were, on the rise and just doing a bevy of terrible things in this country. So Trump responded to probably the second greatest civil rights movement in American history with criticism. Trump responded with the police officer unequivocally killing a black man for no reason with criticism of the man. So don't give me this. Trump lost because nobody fucking liked him. It was more votes for Joe Biden, who's a milquetoast liberal, than any other politician in history. People just didn't like Trump. Everybody voted for Biden. Leftists voted for Biden. Centrists voted for Biden. Women voted for Biden. Blacks voted for Biden. Latino people voted for Biden. Jewish people voted for Biden. Nobody, even if you work and you're in the union, like I am, you voted for Biden because nobody fucking liked Trump. Biden might not be doing more than maintaining the status quo, but at least Biden doesn't try to say that Proud Boys are good people, and he's not mismanaging the pandemic by saying, it's not that, it's just like a flu, don't worry about it.
Especially when you read Matt Taibbi's reporting on this, and he's far from conservative.
That stupid son of a bitch.
So this is it. They know.
I think I'm done here, man. Like I can't really take any more of these conspiracy theories from Tim Pool right now. So I'm gonna go ahead and just I gotta stop.